بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على الأشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد صلوات ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب المجيد والفرقان الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. All praises to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the sustainer of the universe. He who existed before bringing everything else into existence, and he who shall remain after everything else has perished. May his choicest blessings, mercy and salutations be upon the last of his messengers, the best of his creation, the mercy unto the worlds, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam. And may he extend his blessings, mercy and salutations upon the pure and immaculate family of our beloved Prophet, his Ahlul Bayt, about which the Holy Prophet has said, my Ahlul Bayt are like the Ark of Noah. Whoever sets sail with them is indeed saved, and whoever remains behind shall perish. And on these sad and tragic nights of the holy and sacred month of Muharram, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to explicitly and specifically send his blessings, mercy and salutations upon the grandson of our beloved Prophet, his family and companions. About his grandson, the Holy Prophet has said, Innal Hussein Misbahul Huda wa Safinat al-Najah. Hussein alayhi salam is the lantern of guidance and the ship of salvation. Assalamu ala al-Hussein wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussein wa ala awlad al-Hussein wa ala ashab al-Hussein. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We can twist it, we can bend it, we can abuse it, we can misuse it, we can conceal it, but we can never destroy it. If we look hard enough and struggle hard enough, we will always find it. What is this? This is none other than the truth, al-haq. Truth is that thing that is immortal, eternal, that doesn't have any expiry date. The truth that existed at the time of Nabi Adam exists until today. It survives the destruction of time. Yet if we look around the world today, the scarcest ingredient is the truth. The hardest commodity we can look for and find is the truth. There is so much spin and so much sin that mankind no longer knows what is haqq and what is batil, what is truth and what is falsehood. Everywhere there is nothing but shades of grey, where the truth is mixed with falsehood. And yet on this journey that we are undertaking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is nothing more paramount, nothing more important to the believers than staying on the path of truth, associating with the truth, identifying the truth, being guided by the truth. In these last few nights, we have been analyzing one of the shortest surahs in the glorious Quran, the 103rd surah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Asr gives us the provisions the formula, the ingredients in order to achieve this eternal success that each and every single one of us desires. Our Prophet said, if this was the only surah to be revealed to mankind, if man truly understood it, it would be sufficient for him to achieve paradise and the success that he so desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr. I swear by time, surely man is at a loss. And of course, as we know, time destroys all material things. With the passing of time, all things eventually in this dunya will be destroyed. But then Allah continues and mentions 4 things that are outside the scope of time, that are not destroyed by time, that are immortal, that the believers should try and acquire in their lives, because it will journey with them as they return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, faith, iman, those who acquire faith, something that is immortal, that resides within our inner hearts. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, our good deeds, we know that they are not lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will exchange them in Jannah. He will weigh them and exchange them for bounties of paradise. We discussed this 2 nights ago. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and in those who enjoin upon each other the truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and those who enjoin upon each other patience. Tonight, inshallah, I want to discuss this 3rd provision, this 3rd ingredient, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the believers to enjoin upon each other the truth. And inshallah, we will dissect this subject and try and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means by this, and how the truth will help us as we journey and are in search of success. We will ask tonight, what is the meaning of truth in Islam? What are the consequences when truth is absent? Thirdly, how does truth battle against falsehood? Number 4, what is mankind's relationship with the truth? What is our relationship with the truth? Fifthly, we will ask, what excuses do mankind make when it comes to speaking the truth or avoiding telling lies? What excuses do we make for ourselves? And lastly, how does the truth help us achieve this eternal and immortal existence? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Truth is the essence of Islam. It is one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glorious names, Al-Haq. The absolute reality is that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ilaha illallah, the absolute truth and reality. And therefore the biggest falsehood is shirk, when we associate others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Manifesting this truth has been the mission of all of Allah's 124,000 prophets, and after them our Imams. Our 12th holy Imam, when he reappears, his slogan will be the verses of the Quran, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَذَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ بَاطِلَ كَانَ ذَهُوقًا, and say truth has now come and falsehood perished. Indeed, falsehood is something that is bound to perish. Islam places utmost emphasis on the truth. There are so many verses in the glorious Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word al-haq, the truth. And one of the most powerful surahs which He presents to us in the glorious Quran is وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. I did not create the heavens and the earth and everything in between except with the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that one of the ingredients, the components of everything that He has created is truth. It is like the DNA that exists in every single thing. In all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, through its purpose or its perfection, it testifies to the truth that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Truth is the means by which the universe exists. Truth is the means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this universe work. And if we reflect on it within our very own selves, in the fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, this fitrah is infused with al-haq, the truth. After all, we know that whenever we tell a lie or we commit a sin, we feel this natural sense of guilt. That our human nature, our human self is not in tune with telling lies or associating with falsehood. So the people who study this will tell you that when people lie, their palms become sweaty. Their faces become too jitter. They can't give you eye contact. Their heart, their blood pressure begins to increase. And that is why, for example, the lie detector or the polygraph machine is used often in criminal cases to identify criminals, because when they use that device, it is able to tell the difference between their natural state of their body and when they are speaking or they are not speaking the truth. Because truth is the natural state of the human being. It is the way by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every single thing in this universe. And yet, the sad reality is that one of the first things, if not the first thing that we learn when we are children, is how to tell a lie. Whether it is out of fear, out of embarrassment, out of shame, something that we learn from our parents. Most likely where children learn it first, when the phone rings and somebody asks for them and they say, just tell them I'm not home. Or when the doorbell rings and they ask their children to say they're not home. Small ways that children start to learn about falsehood and how to tell lies. And of course, if we're not careful, that this practice of not telling the truth can grow within us, such that it becomes part of our character, our lifestyle. And then in every single day that goes by, in every hour, some studies have shown that people cannot help but to tell lies. Once somebody came to our third holy Imam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he said, "Oh Imam, that I have been so accustomed to lying and to sinning that I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop." So when Imam heard this, he was disturbed and taken aback. He said, there are only 5 conditions in which mankind is permitted to lie or to sin. If you can fulfill any one of them, then carry on doing what you are doing. But otherwise, I would suggest that you refrain and you try your best to refrain from telling these lies or committing these sins. So the man asked, "Oh Imam, tell me what these conditions are." So he said the first condition is that if you want to lie or you want to commit a sin, then do so without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hearing you or seeing you. Conceal that sin from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course the man thought that that is not possible. So he said, "Oh Imam, then what is the next condition?" So he said, if you want to commit a sin or tell a lie, then go outside the universe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not do so in the universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was created. He said, "Oh Imam, what is the third condition?" He said that get your strength and your risk from someone else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not consume the risk of Allah and then seek to sin or tell a lie. He said, what is the fourth condition? He says that if you can save yourself at the time of death from malakul maut, from taking your soul, then you know you can be safe in your sins and your lies, if you can prevent that. But if you can't, I would ask you to refrain from doing so, from committing sins. And the man asked him that what is the fifth condition? He says that on the day of judgment, if you can stop the angels from taking you to the hellfire, then you can continue doing what you are doing. Otherwise, I would ask you to refrain from sinning and telling lies. There is no space in this universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to confront and go against the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this world with the truth. When we go against the truth, when we tell a lie, we are colliding with the universe. We are colliding with the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are going against His plan and His will. Imam is trying to tell us that we need to make ourselves one with the truth. And that's how we go on this path of success. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also described the truth as the sword of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whatever it touches, it cuts. Whatever it faces, it annihilates. Whoever picks up the sword of truth eventually will defeat falsehood and the enemy of truth. And that is why in battle, when Amir al-Mu'mineen fought the kuffar, when he used the Zulfikar to put to death those enemies of Islam, the cry would be heard, La fata illa Ali, la sayfa illa Zulfikar. There is no youth but Ali, and there is no sword but the Zulfikar. Because the Zulfikar in the battlefield was like the sword of Allah that distinguished truth from falsehood. And every Imam after that who picked up a sword was furthering the cause of truth against falsehood. You see, in Karbala, Yazid brought falsehood face to face with truth. When he challenged Imam al-Hussein in Karbala, Imam didn't come to fight. But Yazid brought falsehood in front of Imam and challenged Imam using falsehood against the truth. When Imam stood up and defended himself and his family, and he made truth fight against falsehood, indeed there would only be one victor. Yazid, as we've been saying every night, may have won the battle in Karbala, but the war was won by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And they say with truth and falsehood and lies, sometimes we achieve short-term victories. Momentarily we may think that by lying or by siding with falsehood we have succeeded. But eventually, truth prevails. And everybody can see today how wrong Yazid, Umar ibn Sa'd, ibn Ziyad were, and how Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was on the path of truth. Because he was there on that day. He was the sword of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to save Islam through Imam al-Hussein. The Dhibhin Azim, the great sacrifice that Allah talks about in the glorious Quran, was the sacrifice of Aba Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam. When Imam al-Hussein made the cry, Hal min nasirin yansurna, is there anyone to help me? As much as it was a call, possibly, maybe, for people to help him physically on the battlefield, it was more a call for mankind to stand up and witness the truth, to testify to the truth, to recognize the truth, that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And today, if we think about it, when truth is absent, if this sacrifice did not take place, what could have been the outcome for Islam? And I will share with us some examples tonight, so you could see what could have been the potential outcome for Islam. If we look at Judaism and Christianity today, if Prophet Isa were to return, or Nabi Musa would return, they would not recognize their religion nor their followers today. Nor their followers would be able to recognize their prophets, because the religions have changed so much. They have been distorted so much that neither would recognize one another. So soon after Christianity was revealed, as we all know, the concept of the Trinity was brought into Christianity. The Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. An innovation within Christianity. Today, so many other innovations have been brought into the religion. Female priests, homosexuality. I can name so many other innovations that have been accepted and allowed within the religion. Islam at the time of Karbala was very young religion. Its roots were just being formed and just being established. And yet Muawiyah had no other goal except to cause the people to forget the remembrance of the Holy Prophet and divert them from true Islam. So what did he do? As we all know, Muawiyah did three things. And we've all heard so many lectures about this. He began to forge hadith and misinterpret the Quran. So we know in the Battle of Siffin, before he went to the Battle of Siffin, he asked his soldiers to pray Jummah on a Wednesday instead of a Friday, and tried to justify with hadith and verses of the Quran. Then he began to assassinate people, companions of Imam who had true knowledge. He began to assassinate them. And the third thing which he did, which we all know, he began the cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen from the pulpits, such that people began to get confused. What is truth and what is falsehood? After Muawiyah, Yazid was even worse, as we all know. That he began to even put monkeys on the pulpit. He said that he had one monkey which he loved to humiliate the scholars of Islam. So when that monkey passed away, he made the alims of that time recite namaz-e-janaza or namaz-e-mayyat for that monkey. He was an idolater. He drank alcohol. And he famously said, his words were, and it's recorded in the history books, that there's never such thing as a religion of Islam. Never a book of God or revelation. This was something that the Banu Hashim made up simply to gain power. And yet he was the Caliph of the Muslims at that time. Islam was faced with this big and huge challenge. What Karbala did, what Imam Hussein did in his sacrifice, was draw a line in the sand. Distinguish truth from falsehood. Allow the Muslim to see what was truth and what was falsehood. Separate haqq from batil, good from evil. Islam's roots were young. They needed establishing, they needed strengthening. The sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein in Karbala established Islam and distinguished falsehood from truth. That is how Imam al-Hussein won the battle. Today, if Islam is saved, today if we are able to practice Islam, it is because of that sacrifice. You see, not only is our Holy Prophet indebted to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but each and every single one of Allah's Prophet is indebted, because his sacrifice saved the teachings and the practices and the lessons and the books of all prophets that came before. Because otherwise the Quran would have vanished, the Hadith would have vanished. When the Holy Prophet said, Husaynu minni wa ana min al-Husayn. What did he mean by this? Now we understand when he says that Hussein is from me, because he was the grandson of the Prophet. But what did he mean when he said, I am from Hussein alayhi salam? Because as we said, that Muawiyah and Yazid wanted to destroy the remembrance of the Prophet. They wanted to divert people away from Islam. It was the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein that kept the name of the Prophet alive. It kept the teachings of the Prophet alive. It kept the religion of the Prophet alive. And if you think that this may be an exaggeration, what we are saying, then just cast your minds to Saudi Arabia today. Some of us are old enough to remember, who've been for ziyarah 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There are all those historical places where the Prophet used to live and visit and pray. All of them were there before. But now the Saudi dynasty, one by one, has destroyed all of these maqam. All of these places of historical relevance, being effaced from and erased from history. And many of you may have read and heard today that even there is talk of moving the grave of the Prophet outside Medina, from Medina. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam's sacrifice would never allow anything like this to ever happen, because he distinguished truth from falsehood. He made sure that the name of the Prophet was established, that the religion of the Prophet was established, so we may be guided on the straight path. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So how does truth battle against falsehood? How did Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam achieve the victory? What was his secret weapon that he was able to achieve such a great victory for Islam? And he tells us this in his will which he left with his half-brother Muhammad al-Hanafiya. He says in that will, which is there for everybody to read, he says, I have not risen to create discord amongst the Muslim, nor to elevate my status in the eyes of the Muslim. I have only risen to save the religion of my grandfather by enjoining people towards the truth and away from evil. The Arabic words for enjoining to the truth and away from evil is amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. These are such great acts that they are wajib for each and every single believer. They are part of our furwe deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the glorious Quran, when he talks about establishing the truth and forbidding evil, he said in the glorious Quran, وَلْتُكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Let there be amongst you a band of people who rise and invite towards good, establish the truth and forbid evil, so that you may be successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is referring to a band of people. Maybe this is indication or referring to Imam al-Hussein and his small group of family and companions who stood to fight against falsehood and for the truth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes even further. He says in the glorious Quran, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. The believing men and the believing women, they invite towards truth and away from evil. They are guardians of one another. And then he continues later on, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. In this particular verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the first obligation of the believers, they are guardians of one another, they invite towards the truth and away from falsehood or evil. That is an obligation for each and every single one of us. Then he continues and says, then they establish the prayer and they pay zakat. He places amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar even above establishing the prayer, zakat and all the other wajibats. And sometimes we ask ourselves that when Imam al-Hussein was in Makkah, when he left Medina and he arrived in Makkah, as we all know, it was the time of the Hajj, but he did not perform the Hajj. And he left Makkah. And we wonder, why didn't he perform that Hajj? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that when there is falsehood prevalent, when there is oppression and injustice around, when the society is corrupt, and the first wajib act is amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. Salah, Hajj and everything else comes later. And this is exactly what Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam did. He went to do amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. This is how he brought victory and saved Islam. Our fifth holy Imam says that it is through amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar that the religion can be saved, that lawful acts remain lawful, that all the other wajibat that we have are protected. It is through this amra bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar that the religion is safeguarded. Without this, everything would be destroyed. Our Holy Prophet said that Muslims who rely on other people to do these two acts, it is as if they have challenged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to war. Hadith from our Holy Prophet. And who would like to challenge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to war? This is how important It is. And to end with one analogy on this particular discussion, imagine if we're all sailing on this ship of salvation or this ark or any kind of boat, and then some of us decided to drill a hole in that boat. And if the others did not stop them from drilling that hole, eventually what would happen? The boat would sink and everyone would drown. Not only those who drilled that hole. And that is why Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar has been made such an important obligatory act in Islam. Because it is what safeguards the religion. And is the way in which Aba Abdullah saved Islam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As believers, then how do we manifest the truth? How are we supposed to demonstrate the truth in our lives? And when it comes to types of people and our relationship with the truth, in Islam, 3 or maybe 4 types of people are described. The mu'min is one description of a person in the Quran. The mu'min is the one who manifests the truth with his tongue, with his heart, and with his actions and deeds. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions another kind of person in the Quran, a munafiq. A munafiq is somebody who speaks the truth outwardly, but through his actions and in his heart believes something completely different. And then Allah of course mentions the mushrik, of course, who denies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his tongue, with his actions and in his heart. But for believers, when it comes to manifesting the truth through our tongue, our heart and in our actions, we also need to think about 3 spheres in which we need to demonstrate this. We need to be truthful with ourselves. We need to be truthful when we're with the people. And of course, we need to be truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody once came to a holy prophet and said, can a believer be a coward? The holy prophet said, yes. He said, can the believer be a miser? He said, yes, the believer can be a miser. And then he got to the question he really wanted to ask. Can the believer tell lies? And the holy prophet said that the believer can have any qualities except 2: treachery and telling lies. And then another companion asked the Holy Prophet, what is that trait or that quality that all the people of Jahannam have? And the Holy Prophet, he said, they were all told lies and sided with falsehood. See, at the level of the tongue, when we need to align the tongue with the truth, sometimes it is hard. Because there's so many different ways in which the truth is exaggerated, the truth is mixed with falsehood. And we need to be careful because sometimes, even when we say Salamun Alaikum to someone, with the intention afterwards of lying to him or misguiding him, even that salam can be a lie or a falsehood that we are uttering. And we have a brilliant example of this in the tragedy of Karbala. When Muslim Ibn Aqil was captured by Ibn Ziyad, and he was brought into the courtroom of Ibn Ziyad, and these are the companions of Imam al-Hussein, so you can see how careful they are. And they brought him in front of Ibn Ziyad, and he sat there silently. The guard said, how dare you not say salam to Ibn Ziyad? And his response was, why should I say salam or offer peace to somebody who wants nothing more than to kill me or take my life? That these personalities were so particular in the words that they uttered. After the level of the tongue, when it comes to the level of the heart, when we need to be truthful with the heart, we need to be careful that we don't say things and then within ourselves think the opposite thing. Because our actions are not determined by our intellect. Our brain eventually does not guide us in reality of what we do and what we do with our actions. It is our inner hearts will eventually guide us and our actions and what we do. And we have these examples in the glorious Quran, in our history books. The example of Abu Sufyan, who accepted Islam with his tongue. And yet all his actions after that were completely the opposite. Harming Islam, or Yazid, or Muawiyah. That if we're not careful, we may think that we can speak the truth. That our actions, if we are careful and we think through our actions, that we will be able to disguise our disbelief with our actions, but eventually our actions will reflect what is in our hearts. And after aligning our hearts and our tongues with the truth, of course, we need to align our deeds and do deeds that please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, when Imam Hussein was journeying towards Kufa, Farzdak, the poet, was returning and going the other direction. And he asked Farzdak, he's a famous poet at the time, tell me about the people of Kufa. Because they had written so many letters to Imam al-Hussein. Tell me about the state of the people of Kufa. He said to them, O Imam, their hearts might be with you, but their swords are against you. That once our words and our iman has got to a certain level, we then need to be careful. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us. Ibn Ziyad at the time threatened the people of Kufa. That if you side with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we shall imprison your husbands, put them to death. That although they wanted to support Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, the fear that was placed in their heart when their actions and their deeds did not conform with what they wished and they desired in their hearts, and they spoke and they wrote to Imam al-Hussein. And that is why, of course, Muslim ibn Aqil was eventually captured in Kufa, because there were very few supporters to support him. And as human beings, when it comes to the truth and manifesting the truth, and sometimes when we get accustomed to telling these small white lies in our lives, we make excuses for ourselves. We try and justify our actions. We say to ourselves, well, maybe as long as I don't tell big lies or commit sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive my small sins or my small lies. The first excuse that we make for ourselves. And once two individuals at the time of our sixth holy Imam were having an argument. One of them had committed a few major sins and the other had committed many small sins. And they were arguing and they said, which of us has done the worst deed? Which of us is worse? The one who committed the big sins or the one that committed the many small sins? So they couldn't agree amongst themselves. So they said, let us go and ask the sixth holy Imam. So they went in front of Imam, and Imam said, if you want to know, then I ask you to do something. The one who has committed, both of you, I want you to go to the mountain that is outside the city. The one who has committed the big sins, I want you to collect big boulders, big rocks representing those big sins and bring them to me. And the one who has committed the small sins, the little small sins, the many small sins, I want you to collect small pebbles and bring them to me. So the men set out on this journey. The one who committed the big sins brought back these 2 or 3 large boulders in front of Imam, and the one who committed the small sins brought 2 or 3 bags of these small pebbles. And then they asked Imam, tell us, what did you want to teach us? What did you mean by asking us to perform this action? So Imam said to them, now the one who committed those big sins, who's collected these large boulders, go and put them back in their place. And the one who collected and committed these small sins, go and put these small pebbles back in their place. The 2 men went back. Of course, the one who committed the big sins could remember where he picked up those large boulders from, because they left imprints on the earth. They was easier to remember. But the individual who picked up those small pebbles, representing the small white lies that he was telling, he could no longer remember where he picked up those pebbles from. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is trying to tell us that these small sins can be great, because when it comes to seeking tawbah, if we cannot remember the sins that we committed, how do we know what to seek tawbah for? Imam Ali said that the biggest sins are indeed the smallest sins that man think are small in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they indeed, in fact, the largest sins in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The other excuse that mankind makes when it comes to justifying their actions, siding with falsehood sometimes, telling the odd white lie, is they say to them, well, the end goal that I want to achieve is a good goal, is a worthy goal. Like the invasion of Iraq, the weapons of mass destruction that never existed, that were fabricated to justify an invasion of Iraq, that they thought would be a good thing for the Iraq and the Muslims at that time. But Islam has a different opinion on this. When Abu Sufyan came to Amir al-Mu'mineen and he said to him when his caliphate was taken, what was rightfully yours has been taken from you. Side with me and I will help you get your caliphate back. And Amir al-Mu'mineen said to him, never shall I side with falsehood, even if it means removing another falsehood. And in the English language, we said two wrongs don't justify the action of doing something right. In Islam, siding with falsehood is not allowed under any situation or circumstances, as Imam taught us. Because siding with falsehood takes us down a slippery path. Imams tell us when we tell the first lie, then we have to cover up the first lie with another lie. And then cover up the next lie with another lie. And it takes down a path on which there is no return. Islam is that religion that is al-haq, the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything with this truth. The DNA of all creation is the truth. So how then do we immortalize ourselves, make ourselves one with this truth? And I will end by sharing this one narration which shows how we can achieve this eternal existence, make ourselves one with the truth. Somebody once came to a holy prophet and started flattering the holy prophet, started eulogizing and reciting poetry about the holy prophet. And the prophet looked at him and he said to him, what will happen to you in the grave when Munkar and Nakir question you and you cannot even remember my name? The man was surprised. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I know your name, I know your father's name, your mother's name, I recite poetry about you. And the prophet said, see, what you are saying at the moment is just flattery. It's superficial. It is not from your heart, but it's from your tongue. In the grave, he says, our hearts, our brains will decompose. The thing that will answer Munkar and Nakir in the grave is our inner hearts, our nafs. If we don't take something from the level of the tongue and the brain and imbibe it within our inner hearts, then it will disappear. Those deeds will vanish. It is only those deeds which we do qurbatan illallah, fi sabilillah. Because when we do something qurbatan illallah, we add an element of truth or haqq in that action. When we add an element of truth or haqq in the action is preserved and stored within our inner hearts. It means that action does not evaporate. That deed does not evaporate. That deed survives because we have done it qurbatan illallah, for the pleasure of Allah. We have introduced this ingredient of haqq, and that ingredient then survives the destruction of time. It becomes like iman and stored within our inner hearts. When we side with the truth, when we do things qurbatan illallah, fi sabilillah, we do that for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all our words that we speak, all our actions become one with the truth. Because we cannot do something qurbatan illallah and commit a false act or tell a lie. Then all our actions become truthful. Our way of life becomes truthful. Everything we do has this element of truth. It is preserved. It is safeguarded. It is turned into iman, stored within our heart, in our hearts, and journeys with us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is how we become one with the truth. We achieve eternal success. That is what Aba Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam invited us towards in Karbala. When he called Hal min nasirin yansurna, this was an invitation for us to witness the truth, to side with his message, to adopt this way of life of the truth. Because he was showing us clearly that if you side with falsehood, then what could happen is something like the tragedy of Karbala. You can lose the family of the Holy Prophet, or such a great sacrifice would be required, like the sacrifice of Aba Abdullah Hussein. Bear witness to the truth. Stand up for the truth. Make yourself one with the truth. When we have the slogan, Kullu Yawmin Ashura, Kullu Ardin Karbala. Every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. This is an invitation every single day for every single believer to side with the truth, to remember Karbala and what happened if falsehood is allowed to prevail. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight we remember that personality that was the reflection and the resemblance of Rasulullah. That whenever the family of the Prophet wanted to remember Rasulullah, they would look at the beautiful face of Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar was the son of Imam al-Hussein and Layla. Historians tell us that as Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was journeying towards Kufa, he momentarily fell asleep on his horse. Ali Akbar was next to him. When Imam dozed off, at that moment he had a dream and he saw that they were marching towards their death. When he woke up, he told Ali Akbar about his dream. Ali Akbar said, "My father, are we not on the path of truth?" Imam said, "Of course we are, my son." So Ali Akbar said, "Oh my father, it doesn't matter if death comes towards us or we march towards death." Historians say on the day of Ashura, after Zohar time, now only 18 members of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam family are remaining. They were like bright shining stars on the plains of Karbala. Historians write that this group of young men got together. After a brief conversation, one of them emerges. The young man, they said, the historians write, we saw he was about 18 years old. He went towards Imam. When Imam saw that young man, tears began flowing from his eyes even before the young man arrived. Historians write a conversation between these two took place that lasted a very long time. They say that we saw these two embrace each other, cry, weep, and then eventually Imam gives this young man permission. It is said before the young man mounts his horse, he goes towards the tent of the ladies. He said when he entered the tent of the ladies and he spoke to Bibi Zainab and the granddaughters of Rasulullah, and he bid farewell, such was the cry that came from the tents that he felt like the plains of Karbala were trembling. And then the young man mounted his horse. He began to ride toward the battlefield. But as he was riding, he noticed that behind him Imam was following. The young man dismounted his horse. He went to Imam and embraced Imam, and then mounted his horse again and began to ride. But Imam continued to follow. It is said the young man dismounted again. 3 times this happened, and then eventually when Ali Akbar says, "Oh my beloved father, I have already wished you farewell. Why do you continue following me to the battlefield?" Imam said, "Oh my beloved son Ali Akbar, this is the love that a father has for his son." And then Imam raised his hand to the heavens. He said, "Oh Allah, bear witness that I am giving you that son of mine that resembles the messenger of Allah. Whenever we want to see your messenger and remember him, we look at the face of Ali Akbar." Historians write that witnessing all of this was Layla, the mother of Ali Akbar. She was standing outside the tents and weeping and crying. She could see how madloom her husband Imam al-Hussein was. She raised her hands to the heavens. She said, "Ilahi, bi gurbatil Hussein. Oh Allah, I ask you out of the loneliness of Hussein." And then she continued her dua. She said, "Oh Allah, you are the one who reunited the infant Musa with his mother. You are the one who returned Yusuf to Yaqub. You are the one who returned Ismail to Hajra. I ask you, bring back our son Ali Akbar one more time." Ali Akbar rode towards the enemy soldiers. When they saw him, one of them cried out, "The messenger has come to fight us, so much did he resemble Rasulullah." But Ali Akbar stood in front of the messenger, the enemy soldiers. He announced and introduced himself. "Ana Ali ibn Hussein ibn Ali. I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. By God, no immoral person will judge us on this day." And then he began to fight the enemy soldiers. One by one, he put them to death. Everyone who came to fight him was put to death. Eventually, historians say it was as if the dua of Layla was answered. Because Ali Akbar turned back from the battlefield. He came back to his father Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said, "Oh Imam, see how I am defeating the enemy soldiers. But oh my beloved father, I am thirsty. Have you but a little bit of water that I may have and go back and finish the enemy soldiers?" But what was Imam to say to his beloved son Ali Akbar? He said, "Oh my son Ali Akbar, today the messenger of Allah will quench your thirst in Jannah." Ali Akbar turned around. He rode towards the battlefield. He continued to fight bravely. Eventually, historians say that one enemy soldier hiding behind another, he lances a spear. Ali Akbar doesn't see the spear. The spear strikes Ali Akbar in his chest, right in his heart. When Ali Akbar is struck in the chest, it is said he falls flat forward on his horse. He falls forward on his horse and the blood from his heart begins to fall onto the eyes of the horse. Historians say this is what broke Abu Abdullah Hussein's heart the most. He said that Arabian horses are trained that when their rider is injured, when their rider is hurt but still on the horse, that the horse will take them back to their camp safely. But there was so much blood in the eyes of the horse, so much blood of Ali Akbar in the eyes of the horse, that the horse got confused. Instead of taking Ali Akbar back to his father Imam al-Hussein, the horse took Ali Akbar to the camp of Umar ibn Saad. Historians say that the enemy soldiers began to ambush Ali Akbar from all sides. They grabbed Ali Akbar and they began to pull him from the horse. As he was falling, he cried, "Ya Abati, alayka minni salam." "Oh my father, my final farewell salams upon you." Historians say Imam Hussein mounted his horse. Ali Akbar was deep in front of the enemy soldiers' camp. He mounted his horse, he rode towards the enemy soldiers. As Imam arrived there, the enemy fled. Ali Akbar was still alive. He was lying on the ground, his chest was bleeding. When Imam Hussein arrived, he saw Ali Akbar on the ground. He was covering his chest. He was hiding something from his father. When his father asked Ali Akbar, "What is under your arms?" Ali Akbar said, "Don't look, my father. You will not be able to bear it." Imam Imam Hussein could not bear to see the pain in his son's eyes. He removed the hand of Ali Akbar. He saw the blade of the spear in the heart of Ali Akbar. He turned towards the heaven. He held that blade and he cried, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, and removed the blade from the heart of Ali Akbar. Historians say when he did this is when Ali passed away from this world, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam was left heartbroken on the plains of Karbala. Al-A'laratullahi ala-al-qawm al-zalimin. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Surah Al-Mubarak.